All right. Good morning, everybody. Like I was introduced, my name is Janas. In April of 2020, I was very ill. So I'm going to share with you my experience in heaven or on the other side. And again, this is simply my experience. I'm not here to change your views. I'm not here to talk politics, anything like that. I'm just here to explain to you the knowledge that was given to me from Father on the other side. And that's that. So please take what you need from it. Questions are always welcome at the end. So I'll begin. As a little child, I was raised and I was grown up a Catholic from my grandparents. My parents really didn't have anything to do with my, religion or upbringing that way. My grandparents were very Catholic. Went through all the sacraments, all of that. And as a little boy, something just didn't feel right within me. And I'll explain. And that means, how can I not do anything wrong? And, God's going to be up there waiting with a big stick to punish me no matter what I do. So I always felt in that essence a little lost or confused or, in the dark. It's like, how could he love me so much just to wait up there and beat me, or send me to hell or whatever. So as a very young boy, about 8, I'd say, don't ever wake me up to go to church again. I don't want any part of it. And so I left the church. I didn't stop believing, but I quit having a relationship with God and with Jesus. So we're going to fast forward now to April of 2020. I come home from work and I begin to cough up vast amounts of blood. Breathing became extremely difficult to the point of where, for me, I don't remember it. I just remember waking up in the ICU. It was nighttime, hands, feet, every strapped to the bed, tube, intubated, the whole thing, where I was for a month. And the entire time, from the moment I awoke, I looked to the left, upper left, where the TV was in the room, and there was an undeniable presence there. Nonstop. It never stopped. It never wavered. It was there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, and I just kept staring at the TV the entire time. So one of the nurses came in one day and said, do you want me to turn on the TV? And I'm like, I can't talk. And I'm like, no. I mean, how do you tell somebody there's somebody standing there? There's somebody right there. And I just kept staring at the TV. We're going to fast forward to the end of the month. IV is out of the side of my neck, tubes out. I'm okay. I'm breathing on my own. And I asked, or I was like, what was that? Why was the IV there? And said, well, you had no blood pressure. We had to get your heart restarted. And I'm like, but that's not when my ND took place, which was, for me, a little weird when I'm still trying to process and go through this. Everybody was out of the room. I was just by myself, and an extraordinary amount of every part of my body was in excruciating pain. And I just stared at the TV, and with everything that I had, I tried to sit up on my elbows, but I was shaking. I couldn't talk, and I cried out to God. I said, please. Now, mind you, this is the first time I've spoken to him in over 40 years. I cried out to him, please don't let me die. When you reach that point of knowing you're going to die or did die or whatever, it profoundly changes your life. You look at things differently. So as I'm begging him not to die, I said, please let me see my daughters again, please. I love them, please. And I went on about, my love for something that I have here. And it was in that moment of me describing my love that I was instantly engulfed in this light, in this love. Time stopped. All the pain was gone. There was no more pain. I was young, and it felt like somebody had plugged me into the wall socket. I was literally juiced, and I was like, now instead of looking outside, I could see everything. the wall behind me, the nurse's station, every single room on the ICU ward, and I was now above my body. And I was still staring at the TV because that's who I'm talking to. And I had just looking outside, I could see every blade of grass moving independently. And it was the most beautiful green I had ever seen. That type of green just doesn't exist here. It was alive. Every blade of grass had a life force around it, and it was just moving independently. And I looked at the tree, with the tree bark. Again, it had its own soul, its own life force. And that's when a thought, formulated in my head. And like I said, I'm home. I spoke it, but without speaking. It was just a thought, and it was instantly conveyed. And I said, I'm home. And I was like, I didn't want to go. I was like, I'm home. And I'm talking to the TV, and again, another thought formulated in my head. I said, what a beautiful day to die. Like it was absolutely nothing. Like it was just something I had done 1,000 times or more, which we all have. But we'll get into that later. I was just engulfed in this moment. It felt like it was warm. I almost to the point of where it was hot. But it wasn't damaging. It was just all-encompassing. And it felt like, in my earlier interviews, that like I was placed in the middle of the sun. But there's just no words to describe the love here. But it felt like somebody had picked me up and placed me in a river about 10 feet down, and that water that would normally hit you and go around you, this love, this unconditional love and warmth radiated right through me, through every part of my soul was engulfed in this love and light. I'm getting goosebumps. And it was the most pronounced peace and sense of security that simply you will never find here on earth. Now, again, I don't know how long. I could have been there 5 hours, or 5 minutes. I don't know. There was just simply no aspect of time, and it didn't hurt at that point. And then that digital download came of, I no longer cared about my children, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I knew they were perfect. They were right where they needed to be. Everything that was happening on the earth right now, including the war, was right where we needed to be. And there was no sense of being scared or lost or anything. That it was just unconditional love on a scale that, like I said, there's just no accurate words to describe here on earth. They just simply do not exist. And I knew at that moment who that was. I didn't say it, but I knew it. And then again, time-wise, I don't know. My kind of glanced off would be towards my right from the left or straight ahead, and more unconditional love came. It was almost oppressive, would be the unearthly, just, it was so much. It was so warm, and Jesus had shown up. So I had Father to the left, Jesus to my right, and I knew exactly who that was. Like he and I were sitting outside and by a fire and just talking. It was a sense of putting on a comfortable pair of old shoes. They fit, and you just know. And I just knew both were there, and I was in shock. I mean, and I'm talking about after my NDEs, like, why did this happen to me? Why me, out of all people? Someone who felt unworthy his whole life. Now I'm with Father, I'm with Jesus, and I had to make sense of that. Meaning, when my NDE ended, Jesus put 2 of his hands on my chest or my soul and pushed me back into my body where I was instantly asleep. And I'm talking asleep like I have never had before. It was a very peaceful and meaningful, but yet deep sleep. Sometime later I awoke and I turned to the left, and that presence was gone. It was just just the ICU room. And the first thing that went through my mind is, nobody's going to believe what just happened to you. Nobody's going to believe you, especially coming from somebody that didn't have a relationship with God for over 40 years. And I'm talking nothing, no talk, no hello, good morning, nothing. And, I didn't know how to process this. It was, I'm an extreme introvert. I live alone. Very, very, very little friends. And I mean, how do I tell somebody that, where I was and what happened to me? They're not going to believe me, so, but it was an underlying, thing that I had to do, which was talk. He wanted me to talk. It was like, let everybody know I'm here. You're not alone. And one of the biggest things was that I got out of this experience was, one, you're never alone. Even if you're in your apartment or your house by yourself, you're not alone. Father hears you, he sees you, and he hears you. Every emotion, every feeling you're having. And another controversial topic, which is God really doesn't care about your religion. Religion to Father means nothing. It is nothing that he created. It's stuff that we created here on earth. We're social creatures. And about the only thing that I could say about religion to Father is as long as it brings you to him, that's all he cares about. It could be a pile of leaves. It could be rags on your bed. Doesn't matter. He doesn't care about it. What he does care about or would love is for you to show love, because that's who we are. We are love. We are energy. And that's it. He created us from himself. It's like when you make homemade cookies, you get all the ingredients, you get it up, you got the big ball, right? That's Father. And you take a little bit, you roll it up, you make some cookies. That's who we are. We are him. All of us. We are love and we are energy. And we simply come to earth to breathe, to experience everything that is not love, which could be, hate, anger, whatever. It's free will. So when we come down here, we choose our lives. We choose our parents. We take great pride in choosing who our parents are going to be, because we come down here for a mission or a contract. And that is going to be fulfilled by each and every one of us. And each one of us is different. So when you go about that, and, when you're raising your children, just know that they're not yours. They came here for that same experience that you wanted to when you chose to come down here. So everybody's life is different, but yet it's all the same. I know that's hard for people to understand, because we're all the same. We're all one. We are all created in that same circle. None of us are different than anybody else, except what we're choosing to experience here. And that's it. And some of that is good, If you want to eat a candy bar, eat a candy bar. If you want to go to Kathmandu, go to Kathmandu. Just live, That's what I tell people, is you're just here for the experience. There's no good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply an experience that you don't get when you're home. When you're home, it's nothing but unconditional love. That's it. And to us, that's what we crave. All of us down here is to be loved unconditionally, isn't it? To feel that love from your partner, your children, or whatever. Why does it make you feel so good when that person says, I love you? Or when your son or your daughter or your mother or your father pass away? It's grief, the love that you're craving. So again, that's what we are. And our purpose down here, or here on earth, is simply to live. However you choose to do it. So some people will say, well, that's murder. Well, we're all actors and actresses down here. We all come for a specific part. Some people play the good part. Some people will choose to play the villain, so to speak, and when you can simply see it as for what it is, how simple it is, and how lost all of us, including myself, have been for most of my life, to see the truth that I did no wrong in Father's eyes, nothing wrong. And I was the one, even in his arms, still judging myself for the things that I did during my lifetime, which, I thought were bad, but apparently they weren't. And, so the guiltiness and the judgment didn't come from Father. It came from myself. Even as a soul out of his body back home, I still felt judgment upon myself for not being true to myself, which is love. So when people are going through their lives or they're searching for that, what's my purpose? You're not meant to know what that purpose is, because then you're going to not have the true earthly experience of everything. Falling down, being intimate with your partner, buying your first house, seeing your children born, or the negative things that come with it. Somebody doesn't like you. You're this, you're that. We're all taking that in. We're all in school. And this is just the only planet that we have in our solar system, in our Milky Way galaxy, that is free will. Every other planet right now is not, that you can go to. And yes, you've had different forms, everybody. This isn't your true form. I mean, you're a basketball size of light crammed into this luggage or this suitcase, and you've been to distant galaxies, have soul families, may not look like what we look like, which would be considered alien. Absolutely. And we don't incarnate here on Earth right away. Like I said, this is the hardest place to incarnate to. So you all have to look at yourselves as like special forces, like Green Berets or Navy SEALs or whatever, is that in order to come here to a very primitive planet, because we're not primitive, we've started out on far advanced civilizations with, our consciousness being fully there, to coming to a very primitive planet and a primitive existence as far as we are concerned, and try and live a life where not only is it primitive, but now we're taking that and cutting that umbilical cord off, and now we don't even have the ability to remember home. So it's like putting on a blindfold, being spun around 15 times in a dark room and try not to fall over obstacles that are out there. It's not going to happen. We are going to continuously learn, and that's what we're here for. We're just here for that experience. We're here to learn how to do whatever it is that we're here to do. I know that seems very simplistic, but it is simplistic. We're here to love, forgive, and learn. That's it. And there's no wrong, no bad, no good. It's just an experience. And a lot of things like, well, Jason, those little babies that died in Texas, they played their part. They knew what they signed up for. They're the ones that signed up for it. There's some sort of change that is going to take place out of that incident, out of all these incidences that, as a society, we label good or bad or right or wrong. We're a labeling society. Well, that was just wrong. Who says it's wrong? God? No. That's why God's not coming down here and intervening in all of this. He did not create violence. He created love. Everything that is not of love and light is not of God and will push you further away from him. He understands what you're doing because you signed that contract with him. But the only way to stop violence is we have to. He is not going to come down here and fix that. We have to fix that. In order to do that, we have to have love, empathy, caring, and compassion for your fellow man. Okay? And that's where the change is going to take place. And that change is coming. We won't be here. It's going to be about 100 years from now. We're going to go through World War III. Nations are going to fall. All of the stuff that's taking place now, the droughts, the war, all of that. We are I know it's hard to describe, but we're evolving, believe it or not, conscious-wise. And we are going to reach that higher level of consciousness in about 100 years, after World War III takes place. We are going to evolve. We're going to come from 2D, 3D to, as many of you may have heard, to 5D. So we are going to grow. Things are going to become easier. We are going to become a more intelligent species where, no more world hunger, no more, homelessness. We are all going to come and we are all going to evolve. And all the babies that are being born now, the little ones, the little types, I call them the enlightened ones. They are the ones that are going to be pushing us to that higher level. Meaning, enlightened, well, they have been here 6 to 8 times maybe already. Thing is that now those little ones are going to remember those past lives that they've lived here, and they're going to take all of that information and help us and push us to evolve. And, I would find that an extremely beautiful thing to see. We won't, like I said, we won't be a part of that. We all, believe it or not, we all need to die. We are playing our parts. We are doing our roles here. And that's what we came here to do is part of our search for Father, our life after here. But they are going to be the ones. We may look slightly different, but not by much, just because of our evolution. And eventually we're going to keep evolving till the world or Earth isn't a free will planet anymore. We will have reached that level of consciousness where Earth is no longer free will. It means you can still come to Earth, but you're now going to feel home. It's not done. There will be no separation. So it's a process that's taking place. And we are all that, like I say, all the actors and actresses that are involved right now that are taking place in pushing us to that higher form of consciousness, which is who you truly are. Like I said, every single one of us we're still home. And when they say, well, your third eye is open, like mine, is I can now feel home. I can feel myself, and I become very emotional. I become an emotional wreck, so to speak, because that's who I am. So when you merge and you say, well, I was with Father and I got that instant download, well, that instant download is you. You're just connecting with your higher self, and being who you truly are. And, it's a decompression time. Like when you truly transition back home, it's a decompression time. You need time to soak in everything that took place, here on Earth. And again, it's your choice. How long that take? You may take what would be a half an hour or 5-hour break, but it might be 500 years or 1,000 years home. There's no way to judge that time. I know for a fact I've been here that I can recall, at least this is my third go around. When I was talking to the psychic, she said, you were a man of the military? I said, not in this case. She goes, no. I said, prior? I said, I have this feeling that, I was killed in action. She goes, in England? I said, yeah, or France or whatever. But it was those realizations that come through that you gain, the knowledge of all your past lives, your soulmates and all of that. I didn't reach that level because I wasn't physically dead. Mine was, and part of the struggle and all the information I'd asked was mine was merely divine intervention. He knew Father knew I was going to be calling out to him. Why? Because that's the way we set my life up. And everybody has those sets, like A, B, C, D. The first milestone, you're going to, graduate high school or graduate college, buy a house. You're going to have these major events that you signed up for that you are going to reach. So how you reach A is completely up to you. B, C, whatever. You may go like this to get it. Some people may take the straight line and hit those milestones, Not all who wander are lost. So how you get to your main events, that's completely up to you, and that's where free will comes in. How you choose to get to them, how you do it, who you do it through, but it doesn't matter. But eventually you're going to be there, and you're going to hit those. My first milestone was when my grandmother asked me to go to church that day. I said, no, I don't want anything to do with Father or any of that. No. Okay, that was mile marker B or A. And B was a big event. I was so hardened by the event. We're going to come back to it in a minute. But I missed B. And by C, Father said, if you don't come back by C, you're going to die. And we're going to have this event and we're going to get you back on track. Well, I missed B, didn't come back. So by the time I hit C, by 5 o'clock that night, 2 hours after I got home, I was dead. I hit C, it brings me back. But when I was talking to the psychic, she was like, do you have a brother or a sister? I said, well, I have a sister, but like an uncle or something? I go, no. I said, maybe, he died around this time. I go, I did have a son, but he was born in a McDonald's stall at 4 months premature. He was only 4 months. And I said, so she goes, I mentioned his name, and I'm like, yeah, that's him. So basically I was talking to my 14-year-old son who had come, and, he gave me the message was, Dad, I was never meant to be born. I wasn't. That was not my mission. My mission was simply, one, to bring you back to God, to bring you back to Father. And two, he says, was to bring you and Mom back together. And he says, it failed. It didn't work. And he says, I love you, Dad. I've never held my son except his body, never spoke words to him. And my son tells me a month ago that I love you, Dad. And that was mile marker B. So 14 years later, after, I found out what point, mile marker B for me was, and that was the death of my son. And instead it hardened my heart, and it, free will, your Father's letting me choose to do this, pushed me further away from him. By the time I hit C, that was it. He was waiting, knew it was going to take place. That was him the entire time in the ICU room. Knew I was going to call out to him. And, all of this information came, during the 2 years after my NDE, which was very hard for me. It was very depressing. I was very depressed for about a year and a half. Everything that I had been taught religious-wise was a farce, and I'm talking about Christianity. I went to my pastor. I needed somebody to talk to. I told him of my experience and everything that I, experienced and saw. And he just sat there with his thumb in his mouth for the whole hour, never said a word. And then, there's nothing you can say because it was just proven wrong. And, the reason why I tell people my story is I don't want people thinking that they're lost or that their religion that they're in is all that you need to be to Father and with Jesus, and it's not. You are going to go there no matter what. But I also want you to know that you are never alone, and that is something that was made and told to me throughout these last 2 years and through my NDE, is that you are never alone. This conversation is being heard and listened to. All your emotions are being felt and heard by Father. And no matter where you are or what you're doing, you are never alone. He hears you, he sees you, and he feels you. No matter what you are going through, whether it's a car accident, whether you were shot or stabbed or beaten up, he is taking every blow. He's taking every emotion with you. But he is not going to stop that from happening because it is simply what you chose to experience. And the best way to describe that is if a friend of yours found a new buffet. You go to eat with her, but you've never been to this restaurant before. She said, I'm telling you, it's fantastic. Well, you go in there and grab your plate. What are you going to choose when you have no clue what any of this food is? It's kind of like when we choose our lives. Well, I want to try cancer. I'd like to try breast cancer. I would like to try being shot. I would like to try being raped. You know, we don't know what that is. So when we come down here and we choose these experiences that we want to experience here on earth, you know, we look at that and we label it as, oh, that's terrible. Who would ever want to be abused as a child or whatever? It's simply what you chose, because we don't know what that is. You know, in my life, I chose poverty, you know, not having much money, not having much of anything. And, you know, being here on earth for almost 50 years, I complained and cried about it. It's not fair. Why do they get to have all this money and big house and cars, and, you know, I can barely put food on the table? It's simply what I chose to experience here. And I look at that now and I laugh, and I'm like, okay, we've got this. It's perfect. You know, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just simply the experience that I chose to experience here during this life. And I can see why, you know, I chose the parents I did. And, you know, because they made me, let's put it this way, you know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It was abusive to say, we'll just say that. So you find an inner strength that I did when I was a little, and I carried that strength. No matter how many times you knock me down, I will get back up. And that's something that Father wants. Don't give up. You know, yeah, we know it's going to be tough. You know, fighting for your life, you know, for stage 4 cancer or 2 cancer isn't an easy ride. Something you chose, but, you know, keep it up, keep going. You know, he wants you to push forward and, you know, learn from that experience, whatever it may be. You know, I don't know what that experience is, or any of you experience, but I know personally through this NDE and the physical strengths that I had to endure, and the pain and everything came out of that experience. I've gained a knowledge and a truth that of my life and about life here on earth that I never would have known. And it's been extremely hard to deal with, because there are times you just want to talk and to tell people about who they are, what they are, you know, and that has now been, and it has been made clear to me that that is my mission. That is why, part of why I came here now and had to go through all of those hardships, because telling our stories, or anybody that's had an NDE, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it as well. Like, you're a liar. I've been called a zealot, a liar. Quit trying to spread Christianity. You're just a fool. And I'm like, I value that, you know, God bless, thank you, but I know where I was, I know who I was with. And I'm going to validate everything that I just said by this March, I had another out-of-body experience. I went home again. It was very emotional the night before, and it was this March 15th, 17th, somewhere in there. I woke up, and like I always say, good morning to Father, and good morning, Jesus, you know, love. And it was like, you know, you give me this wonderful experience, but yet I didn't get to go through the tunnel. You didn't take me home. You kept me in the hospital. You know, why, you know, wasn't I good enough to go through the tunnel? Why couldn't I experience, you know, a major part of dying, you know, and, or just having that experience? So I was very emotional, you know, kind of acting like a 2-year-old. So I moved from my bed, I come to the couch, I lay down, and from the time I laid my head down on my couch, I was pulled out of my body. My apartment disappeared. It became a blackness that none of us can experience. It was void of any kind of light, nothing. I wasn't scared, but I was pulled, and I was sucked into this tunnel, which was just pitch black. And far off in the distance, I mean, way far away, it was just like a little light, a little sliver of light. And I'm traveling at the speed of light now. I'm moving. and I felt the same unconditional love, and a little bit of light started perforating through the tunnel. And it was just moving so fast. And I knew where I was. I felt the unconditional love, and I knew that white light was home. So I was all excited, and I'm like, I'm going home, you know? Light keeps getting closer and closer and closer. Again, time-wise, I have no idea. Time just, again, stops. So I'm traveling faster and faster through this tunnel, and I'm getting closer and closer until finally the white light is right up against my eyes. And then I am back into my body. You know, I look around, I'm looking outside, and I was like, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, Father is listening. He hears everything, your thoughts, your needs, your wants, everything. And I knew at that moment he was listening to me. He was listening to me from the moment I woke up to the time I lay down to this conversation. Now it's, you are heard. You're not alone. And that to me is the most beautiful thing. It's brought me a sense of peace and comfort that I never knew existed, because, you know, I found the love. I have a love within me now that simply is not of this world. I think Ray knew, you know, last month said, you know, I grew 25 lifetimes. You know, I want to amp that up. I grew like 1,000 lifetimes, the knowledge that was given to me. And to know that, you know, when you step outside today or you go grocery shopping, none of this is real. None of it is. If you're all movie watchers, or I would say movie watchers, this is the Matrix. This is the duality that we chose. You know, none of this is real. None of it is. And to be shown that yes, the only thing you come down here to do is, you know, try and love one another, have empathy and caring. Other than that, nothing else matters. The clothes, the car, your home, you know, the money in your account. I took none of that with me. None of it. And I could care less about any of it now. You know, I have lost a love or a need for materialism. The only thing that matters to me now is love and empathy and caring and following what you want to do. Father wants you happy, meaning be happy and live your life. I don't care what it is, what you want to do. There's nothing wrong in any of it. And then when we disconnect, like Keanu Reeves pulls out the plug for the last time, we go home. And you're no longer in the Matrix. Unless you want to come back and try it as a, you know, for me, a girl, you know, or, you know, to try this out, you know. That's the only thing that is real, which is home. None of this here is real. It's simply the illusion or the video game. You know, we put a dime in, you know, a quarter in the jukebox, and we're living our tune right now. When it's over, you go home. So, you know, to everyone that's, you know, lost or on the fence, or, well, you know, I've had such a hard life. Well, you know, when I look back at what happened to me, I had a hard life because that's what I chose. You know, I chose to quit loving at a very early age. And, you know, I became, you know, like anybody else, materialistic. The only thing that matters is the big house, you know, the $100,000 in the bank account and all of that. And none of that matters anymore. None of it. It's my love for all of you being here, you know, talking to you guys to let you know that, you know, you're not alone. You will see your loved ones. You will see, you know, your whole soul family, meaning, you know, wives and husbands, past children, you know, from children from different galaxies and planets. You know, you're just here for a small amount of physical time, and then that's over. And then you can choose to stay home and never come back and incarnate here or another planet, or you can bounce around and go, I want to do this, you know. And you sit with Father, you show him the contract, and he says, all right, off you go. You know, it's so simple, really, you know, of what we are and who we're here for. And when I saw that, and I realize every day when I get out and I go to work, this is just a game, and I'm smiling on the way to the car, like none of this is real. But, we all got to play the game while we're here. We all got to do our part in order to make all of this expand and become bigger, and grow. And that's what we're doing. So, people get upset about, the politics thing right now, or abortion, or sex, or any of that, and none of it matters to Father. It doesn't. And we're infinitely powerful. Each and every one of us is a powerful soul. We are not as powerful as Father or Jesus, but we are powerful. And, everything we do, except here on earth, is done telepathically, intimately, and right here and right now. You want to travel or have that thought, you're there, so when we're choosing our parents, if, we choose, or that parent that, wants to have an abortion, that soul knows it's not going to be loved. He is simply going to leave the body. He will find, or he'll try and stay with those parents, but if not, he will find other parents to be born into. So don't think that for a minute that abortion, God's looking at that abortion as killing a soul, a bait, no, it's just throwing a luggage away. That's it. And a lot of people will be offended and hurt by that. Well, that's not true. Well, I'm telling you, it's true. We have that choice. Like my son had the choice. He wasn't meant to be born. He ended it, and his mission was simply to bring me back to God, and, to bring him and his mom together. It didn't work. He tried, but he wasn't meant to be born. So, if that's the case, then that's the case. You will go and you will find those people that are going to give you those certain set of skills that only they can give you as a newborn or a baby to advance in his life and his mission and his contract. And again, it really is that simple. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you can see the truth. And for a lot, like Jeff said, everybody's down here, but, all of us that have the NDE get that hall pass, and we get to skip to the front of the line and still contain some of that was given to us. And for that, I'm deeply grateful because, I'm no longer lost. I know who I am. And the biggest change that I had to undergo, which most wouldn't hear, is, do you love yourself? When I was, was a big thing my whole life. I never loved myself. And in that moment of my transition, Father showed me exactly how much I am loved and needed. Something that I have never felt my entire life, even from my own parents or sibling. Oh, I love you. But in this moment of this unconditional love, I had to forgive myself for feeling unloved and unwanted, and love myself, which is who we are. We are love. We are love, and we are energy, and that is it. And when I finally was able to love myself and forgive myself for feeling that way my whole life, life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. So that's it, my friends. It was mine was not the typical NDE where, mine was basically direct intervention. I did physically die, but that's not when my experience took place. Why? That, I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. But other than it was meant to be, that's what, it took to bring me back to Father. And would I go through it again? Absolutely. All the pain, the misery, everything. Yes, because it brought me back to him. We do live, everybody, and you're going to continue to live for eternity. It's just where you want and choose to live a life. whether it's back here, whether it's somewhere else, doesn't matter. You know, you're living all your lives right now. Your past life is running right next to this life you're running in, and your future life, all going on at the same time. I know it's hard to believe, but everything that is going on right next to us, you know, all your lives, you know. So you can see all of those when you go back home. You can relive them. You can go pick any point in time in your life to relive a moment of pain, of suffering, of love. It doesn't matter. You know, everything from the time you are created, you have been on record, just like this video, and there's no getting away from it. Whatever you've thought, said, done, you know, is going to be shown to you when you go back home. So, but all of that was given to me and not shown. So, like I said, my NDE was different. Again, I had my out of body this year, this March, going back home. I am constantly being shown and shown the truth and pushed in directions when questions I asked. You know, I'm pushed in different ways. But the biggest one, you know, that I really truly want to get to you guys is you are loved. You are never alone. You know, you are loved unconditionally. And for everyone here to forgive themselves for allowing themselves to feel that way, because it's free will. We have that free will to say, hey, you know, I want to live in my pain. I want to live in my suffering. Okay. You know, but you don't have to. So.